I will just start the presentation. So today we are going to talk about the OccluSense. It is a product developed by the company Bausch, and we will be talking about first about a little bit about the basics, the background information, and then we will continue with a few examples from the clinical practice. Maybe to get to know you a little bit, you can maybe present you short and give a few informations about why you're interested and where you're from. So just so that I can have a quick overview about how deep I have to dig into the different teams. Just feel free to open your to just open your microphone.
Hi, Astrid.
Hi.
Uh, my name is Janos Kulka. I'm in upstate New York. The owner and, the sole owner and practitioner at my digital dental lab.
Mm-hmm.
And I am developing a kind of a full digital package, so to speak, that I can market to my clientele. And this device would be just a very niche and valuable addition uh, to my digital workflow.
Definitely interesting. Very nice
Hi,
for your introduction. Yeah.
I'm Dr. Mohan from India.
Mm-hmm.
I recently got OccluSense. So I've started to use it. So I thought I'll have better idea. Already doing a lot of cases. I thought how this would help me in the overall outcome of my full mouth rehab cases,
Mm-hmm.
post-orthodontic cases, post-implant cases.
Very nice. Thank you for your introduction. So we're really diverse, a lot of people from different countries. I love it. What about the others? If you don't want to present yourself, that's also perfectly fine. Okay, then we will. I will just give you a little overview about the company Bausch. So the company Bausch was founded in 1953 by the two dentists, Dr. Jean Bausch and his son, Dr. Hans Bausch. And today, this company is run by the second generation, Andre and Peter Bausch. These are the two sons of Dr. Hans Bausch. Since its foundation, the company has continuously modernized and also innovated its products. And one example of this is OccluSense. So, what is occlusion? This is a very important question we have to ask ourselves before really understanding the product OccluSense. So, we can divide um, the occlusion into a static occlusion and a dynamic occlusion. Can you actually see the presentation well? Because I have a little.
Yes.
So you can see the whole slides or just
Um,
like this maybe.
yeah.
Okay, because if I do full screen, then it's difficult for me to see the chat, which
Mhm.
yeah, so I will just continue like this if everyone
That's
is
good.
okay with it. Um, so yeah, we have a static occlusion and a dynamic occlusion. What is the difference? So the static occlusion is the point when you close your mouth and have just by in a vertical dimension, and the dynamic occlusion can be there can be a wide variation between sliding on the caninus or also on different teeth when you go to the lateral protrusion, protrusion, and mediotrusion. So in order to detect this, like in the past, we used an articulation paper, and there are different thicknesses and different colors, as you can also see here. And so I don't know how you learned it, but in Germany we learned it that the occlusion is marked in 4 different colors. We have, for example, blue for the static occlusion, then red for the lateral occlusion, green for the mediotrusion, and then a black for the protrusion. So this takes a long time, and in the end you have a lot of different colors, and it's still difficult to really understand the occlusion and the occlusal situation of the patient, because although this is a dynamic movement of the jaws, we can only see the end point and all the points together, and we cannot separate in when which point is made during this articulation process. So there, the OccluSense is coming in and is really filling the gap which is there in the occlusion diagnostics. So it helps us really to understand where the occlusal points are. And I now want to present you the system of the OccluSense. So it consists of a handheld, which is shown on the slide here. You have this capture, and you have the sensor, and you have 2 options where you can press. And so this is what you need. And on the other side, you will also be needing an iPad and the OccluSense app, which really looks just like the symbol, which you can easily download in the App Store. But let me first start with the OccluSense sensors. So we have 2 different sizes, one with 71 millimeters wide and one with 77 millimeters, and it can detect 256 different pressure levels. And the really advantage is that it's very thin. It's only 60 micrometers thin. It's very flexible, and it is red. So what does that mean? If we have a patient, we can not only detect it in a digital way, but we also have really just a minor influence on the occlusion because it's really thin, and because it has a red color. You still have this visual points in the mouth where you can detect the occlusal contacts. But how does it now work? The OccluSense is if you want to start with using the OccluSense, you first have to do the initial setup. That means you buy an iPad, or you have an iPad, and this is really important. It's only possible, or the app is only available in the App Store, so it has to be an Apple product. This is the only thing you have to keep in mind. So you have to have an iPad, you have to have an internet connection, which is connected to your iPad, and for sure you have to have the sensor and the this little bag where there is the capture inside. So and then you can you have this you get this package. It includes everything. There's also this green hand sensor, which is necessary to do a first sensor test and to equalize it to a basic status. And this you have to perform on each day in the beginning, just to have it reset and so that it works properly. And now I want to come to the point why OccluSense is really beneficial for the clinical practice. So as I already said, if you use the occlusion with a paper foil, then you have a really huge way. I think I will just switch to the full screen mode so that you can see the pictures better. So if you have the occlusal paper, then you only see really the third step, which is indicated, which shows you the maximum of intercuspidal position. But the initial contact and also the sliding into the intercuspidation is not visible at all. And this is a disadvantage of the occlusion paper. And of course, if you want to have a really good documentation, it's very hard to really put this into your clinical system. If you document it, it's very hard to explain to the patient where his occlusal contacts are. You have to take pictures, which is very difficult inside the mouth. And yeah, takes time and is not really really practical and it's very time consuming. So the OccluSense is a device which allows you to really understand the occlusion from the beginning until the end. So we have the initial contact. We also can show the sliding into the intercuspidation and of course the maximum intercuspidal position. So how does it work? Makes basically a video of you can have a video from the initial contact until the maximum intercuspidal position. And that's very nice because during the recording process, it is already stored and you can then later transfer it to your documentation system. Why do we need actually such a good or a precise occlusal diagnostic? So especially if you have patients with CMD problems, so patients with pain in the jaws, or who had a restoration and always have chipping issues, that's a really useful tool to see why and where the problem is. So here are a few more reasons. It's also it can show you hidden contacts which are not really visible with the articulation paper, because in the articulation paper you can maybe you don't really see the difference between the different occlusal movements when after the detection of the points. Also, we can detect contacts which interfere. We can detect, this is very useful to avoid periodontal damage due to an incorrect loading of single teeth. And it's useful to really have a good distribution of the force, which also can avoid or help implants to grow and to heal into the bone without too much pressure on it. And as I already mentioned, it can avoid chipping. So the occlusion can also be very helpful to have it recorded in order to demonstrate it to the patient, and also to have a different to be able to compare the beginning of the occlusion before restoration, for example, and then afterwards. We can also, if we have younger patients, it is possible to record the orthodontic movements and to really see what is changing over time. And for sure, as I already mentioned, it's really helpful to, at the end, or also to demonstrate the patient where the problem is and how it is solved when you, for example, remove the first or the occlusal contacts, which are too much. So let us now come to the really practical side. Um, if you start using the OccluSense app, there is this interface which is going to open, and there you have different options to choose. So what you can do, you can use the plus button to add a new patient to your database. And then there is this agenda, which is shown on the left, where you can have a alphabetical sortation of the different patients. Then, if you fill out every detail, then you added him to the list. And then you can, if you want to use the OccluSense, you have to choose this patient which you are which you want to look at, and then you have to tap Set Active, so that really the recording is going to be in this for this patient. And then you can tap on New Recording, which is marked on the slide, and you can also choose the frequency for the recording. This is here you can see how you can use the different frequencies. And I mean, there are different options. You can just also play a little bit with it. But I would say if you have just a very basic adjustment you want to perform, then you can just use a frequency which is not so high. And if you really want to dig deeper into detail, then it's a higher frequency to choose. So to select the live mode, you can click on the green button, and if you click on the orange button, it starts with the first contact. And here you can see how you can use it. If just one doctor is, for example, available, then you can use those rings which you can just easily put into the patient's mouth. Then you insert it via just sliding it through, and then you ask the patient to perform the different movements. And as you can see, then there are a few contacts which arise. Here you can see it again. So this is a static occlusion which the patient is performing. And there you can see that the occlusal contacts, they are really well distributed. And here you can now see the advantage that it's not only a digital way, but it's also shown on the teeth itself. I think we can move on. I will explain more when it comes to the colors and the height of the bars when we move on. So, when pressing the pink button, as I already said, the device is waiting for the first occlusal contact. So it will only start from the first time when the patient has a contact with the sensor. But you can also press the pink button again to start the recording also already before the first contact, which can be sometimes useful if you really want to make sure you have all the points on your video sequence. Yeah. So all the options and when it comes to live recording are also explained in a very well detailed manual, which you can easily find on our website. So let us now come to the, we already saw that there are different colors and different heights of bars when the patient bites on this sensor. And I now want to explain you how it really works. So we have the color can, the color means, has a meaning, and the height of the bars means that there is a high or a low pressure. So a low pressure means that there is a small bar, and the high pressure means there is or is indicated using a higher bar. And the color is indicating the area. So if we have a green area, it means that there is a more abrasive contact. And if we have a yellow contact, it's a smaller area. And the red point would then be a punctual contact. You can understand this if you look at a bridge which has two pillars, and one pillar has a really big flat basis, and one pillar has a small, really narrow basis. And if you now imagine you have this, you investigate the force which is on this different pillars, you would feel that there is it's more painful to hold the right side on the slide than the left side, because the same amount of pressure is divided on a rather big surface, and on the other hand it's a small surface. So on the big surface we would then have a green color when the pressure is the same, and for the right column we would have a red color. And also, if you have a look, I mean, the bars are only are not absolute values, but they are relative. So this means it's always compared to the column or to the pressure point next to it. So this is also important. And here's another example. So if you have a bridge which looks like this, and you imagine it comes down to the earth, and then you have the first contact would be the third pillar from the left side, and this would be a red contact. Then the two pillars on the side of this first contact would be orange, and the other ones would be green, because there would be the lowest pressure on it, I would say. And that's how it's indicated here also. So this is how you can interpret it. And this can be really useful if we have a punctual contact which is too high. And if the pillars, the pillar version hasn't made everything clear, we can also try to understand it via using those needles. So just imagine yourself standing on a flat screen where there are those screws. And so if you would imagine standing on a surface where all the screws have the same height, you would see that the difference between the pressure points would be really small. So this would be indicated using a green color. And when the screws or the needles are higher in height than from the difference, then it would be indicated in red. You just have to imagine as I already said, we have 265 different pressure points. So it's really a huge variation, and the colors are not absolute. It's a fluent system. So for example, here on the right-hand side, you have an example with different colors. And so we have red columns and also green and yellow. So when we compare the red columns, they show you that the 2 points next to each other, that there's a huge difference in pressure. And when you look at the green points, those are really more flat contacts, and the pressure between the two columns next to each other are rather small. Yeah, as I already said, if there is a high difference between the contacts, it's going to be red. And this would, for example, represent initial occlusal contacts, or also contacts which stand alone. And for example, if there is only one tooth in the lower jaw and a full teeth on the upper jaw, then there would be just one really red bar showing that the pressure is very high and very punctual. So when we come to the green points, then you would be having a really small difference in between the two pressure points next to each other. And this would then be, for example, abrasive teeth or contacts with similar pressure points. And all the other colors are, as I said, in between and marking the wide range between them. So when we now come to the picture which is shown by the OccluSense machine or in the app, you can have different kind of views. So as I already said, 265 levels of masticatory pressure points, but also as you can see on the left-hand side, there is this I like to call it like a cake, but because it indicates how many or how much percentage of in total 100% is in which part of the jaw or of the arch. And we can see here that the most of the contacts or the only contacts are in the fourth and first quadrant. So this is really important to maybe, for example, this represents a situation where the patient doesn't have any teeth in the front or on the left-hand side, and only these points have contact. And yeah, that's what just occurred was, as I already mentioned, it's not an absolute value. We only compare the two pressure points next to each other. So here's an example of a static occlusion, and as you would maybe say, okay, well, we have different red bars, different height. We have them on both sides. We also have green and a little bit of yellow, and looks pretty looks like there's really a balance in this occlusal contacts. But where you have to look at is also, as I mentioned, the cake structure. You also have to see that more than half of the pressure is on the right side, on the right back part of the the dental arch. So this could indicate maybe also a contact which is too high and too early. So here you see how this occlusion is generated, and this was just before it was statical occlusion, then the lateral protrusion to the left, now the lateral protrusion to the right, again full, and now protrusion, as you can see, and now full contact again. And if we go back, oh, this didn't work out quite well. Okay, I just wanted to show you that there was one contact which was, or maybe I can go back. Yeah, so if we start it now, then you will be able to see that there is I can maybe show it here, yes. So if we do now the lateral protrusion to the left side, then again full arch, and now to the lateral protrusion to the right, there you could see that there is an initial contact here on this side. Yeah, this is always occurring and it's not vanishing, although it's a lateral protrusion to the right, and then the left-hand side should not have contact. So these are really smaller things which you maybe would not see using an articulation paper, but which you see in using the OccluSense. Now I want to present you some features in the OccluSense iPad app. So if you look at the options, you have a 2D option. This looks like this with the cake structure, as I already mentioned. And there is the 3D option, which looks like this, where you really have the heights of the bars. And you also have the option to combine it. And I would really recommend to combine these two views because, as you can see, you have a much broader impression of the occlusion if you see the percentage and also the height of the bars and the colors. Then you have additional features which you can choose from. You can also turn the screen. You can just use your finger turning it around. Then you can also divide your the video sequence you took by using pause, speed, or also going back. You can make a filter on it, which means that you maybe only want to see the highest contacts to, for example, if you have a patient with CMD and you just want to make sure that the highest contacts are gone, then you can use this filter option. And you can have more options when you click on those 3 points, and you can easily compare two recordings, for example, before and after treatment. This is also very useful, and I really like to use this feature to have a good progression to visualize also for the patient. So here you can see the filtered option where you can choose to only show you, for example, like it's indicated here, the 40 levels, which are the highest ones, and so on. So now you have this in your app, but if you want to transfer it to your documentation system, you can easily export it. You can also switch to a full screen mode, and if you want to export it, then you can click on this little door sign. You can export it as a picture, as a PDF, PNG, or also as a video sequence. So you first have to download it to your picture app, and then you can transfer it. So here you can see how you can export the video just in the same way, using this share option, and then it's transferred to your documentation system. How to, if you want to get the access and the guide to perform all the different things, we have a lot of different videos on the website and also in the guidance book. So just have a look at https://link/jm3. So now let us come to the last part of the webinar where I want to show you and want to discuss some clinical experience and some clinical data. I have 3 patients which I want to discuss. So the first important thing if you start is really that you have a right position of the sensor in the mouth. So that means where you have this red triangle, this is supposed to be really in between the 2 front incisors and the first triangle should be the size of 1 teeth, as it's indicated coming now. This should really be in a good position before you start. Here we have a patient with who had prosthodontics in the upper and in the lower jaw, and we asked him to perform a static occlusion. And what we can see is that more than 50% of the occlusal contacts were in the second, third quadrant in the back. So there was a really, this was the highest pressure point and showed also clinically, but also in the data of OccluSense, that there is a high red bar and that there is too much pressure on this side. Then we have the blue points who just mark regular occlusal contacts. We have the orange contacts which show regular occlusion contacts on the premolars, and yeah, really this red and too high point, which you can also clinically see in the mouth of the patient or on the prosthetics. So then, because the static occlusion is not the only thing which we are interested in, the patient also bites and makes movements. So then we asked him to also perform a lateral protrusion. And that's when we saw, okay, this really highest contralateral contact, which already showed in the static occlusion that it's really a high pressure point, was also there performing the lateral protrusion to the right. So that means this is normally not what we want to see in a patient. And when he does a protrusion, this occlusal contact was still seeable, and this led to the point that in the first case that we had to really reduce this pressure point on the in the third quadrant in order to have a more balanced occlusal situation. Let us now come to the first patient who has like own teeth. He came or she came with the initial situation that she had pain in her ear and yeah, feeling like a pressure which she was not familiar with before. And she also had the impression that she had pain in her back, especially in the upper back. We then looked at her dental situation and saw that there were a few restorations made, but couldn't really find a contact which was the reason for this. And she had, but what we marked was that she had a really high muscle tension, which was really remarkable. So then, and I would also suggest this for you if you work with OccluSense. I would also and always do the same strategic. So first start with the statistic occlusion, then go on with a lateral protrusion to the right, then to the left, and then the protrusion, and always compare those different frequencies when it comes to the contact points to have a good overview about how and where the contacts are and where they maybe are in different movements so that you can easily diagnose a premature primary pre-contact. So here you can see those different views. So in the first, you can see the first one on the upper left. You see this is the first contact this patient has in total. Then on the right upper side, you can see the maximal intercuspidation. Then to the there's a lateral protrusion to the right on the left downer picture, and on the right you can see the protrusion movement. And this is showing you that there is really a high contact on teeth 4-8, which was in all the pictures. You can see this there, that there is a contact, although this teeth should not have contact in all the different movements. So here you can see, just for you to make it clear, the protrusion again with the parafunctional contact of 4-8, then the medial protrusion to the left, where the patient had a contact on this side, and then also the medial protrusion to the right, which showed also a canine guidance, but also the parafunctional contact on tooth 3-8 and 4-8. And then when we asked the patient for bruxism, we could really see that there is a main movement over 4-8, which then, when we really see all the data together, we could really detect this point on 4-8 as a pre-contact, and which we had to erase. And therefore, we can use, I don't know if you know this OccluSpray. It's really helpful to detect and to see where you already put away some of the material of the teeth to detect it. Let us now come to the next case, where we had a patient with a coming with this situation. So, oh, sorry. this is how the patient came. And you can see that there is a yeah, here you can see it. The point when you when it goes to the lateral occlusion on the left-hand side, there is this guidance which you can see inside the mouth, but also on the app of the OccluSense. Then we also asked him to perform the protrusion, and there we were able to see that he has contact in the front, which we also expected and were happy with. So in the last patient, we didn't have to do anything because all the contacts were as we expected, and we were happy with it. Here is now a case where you can see that there is a hemimandibular hyperplasia. This was due to a removement of a wisdom teeth, which then led to a reduced growth of the mandibula, and this led to a really enormous disbalance in the occlusal contacts. So what we had to do was to produce a night guard splint, and it is not only used for to equalize the dental position, but also to protect the teeth from parafunction due to this hemimandibular hyperplasia. So here you can see the difference between with and without night guard. So without the night guard fitted, you can see that this was a situation. This is now the statical occlusion. And it really shows that there is a dysfunction, or it's not all the arch has, all the teeth in the dental arch have contact. And when we then performed the same investigation with night guard, then we were able to see the really widespread of all the different contacts around the site. And this is now what you just saw, was that you are also able to turn around the position of this view in the app. And here we asked him to perform the canine guidance and the lateral protrusion to the left. This was when we asked him to perform the protrusion. And let me now end the presentation with the question if OccluSense is really replacing articulation paper or articulation foil or not. So from my point of view, it depends on the indication. So I like to use the articulation paper if I want to have really a single and a quick view of the occlusal contacts and of the position. And I use the OccluSense if it's more important to see a movement of teeth over the time, so to be able to compare it, and also to be able to if I have, for example, a really difficult patient who has a lot of pain, and if I really want to see before and after the reconstruction, for example. So yeah. So what I do if I have a complex patient, then I perform an OccluSense diagnosis before the restoration. Then I adjust the occlusion, and then afterwards I perform the control overview with the OccluSense to really be sure that there has been changes and what changes we had to, and then I make an overlap between those two video sequences to really see what has changed. But for like a quick checkup of the occlusion, I still use the occlusal paper. And for sure, for me, it's very useful to just upload it to my digital system, and I don't have to store any models of teeth or anything in an articulation, which is really also time consuming and space consuming. So I can just click through these. These are some people who used OccluSense and were very happy. But I am especially interested in what you think, and also, of course, for your questions. So I am very happy to answer them.